I'm trying to understand just where we live. I feel like I live inside a kaleidoscope. You know, those things you hold up to your eye and you twist it and it gives you all kinds of fractured and fractalated, or whatever the hell the word is, images of all kinds of colored things. And if you stare at it long enough, eventually you start to lose touch with the reality. At least that's what happened to me. At least that's what used to happen to me when I would look through those things and be half stoned. You know what I'm saying? But today, in listening to the arguments before the Supreme Court in the Orange Bastards I'm Immune from Everything hearing, there were a couple of times when I felt like jumping up, running out of the studio and screaming into the woods about, do you justices not realize what you are alluding to here? That this orange bastard has the same rights as King George, the monarch against whom this country rebelled towards the end of the 18th century. Do you not get that, you justice freaks? Especially Alito. My God, this man belongs in the Russian parliament or in some totalitarian state where he can sit on the Supreme Court, who issues edicts that have nothing to do with reality. And then, of course, Uncle Clarence Thomas, who's sitting back there on his large ass, issuing these ridiculous statements and questions. That I guess he thought, gee, won't this make me sound very intelligent? Knowing full well that his bitch of a wife, Ginny, was involved in the attempt to overthrow the government of the United States. The case that Uncle Clarence and Sammy the Fish and the rest of these justices was hearing today. That's essentially what it was about. And then on top of all that, not too far from the Daniel Scampin studio here on the campus of Emory University, the cops, Atlanta cops, Emory University cops, state police were tasering and tear gassing students who were involved in a peaceful demonstration against the slaughter, the killing going on in Gaza. And then on top of everything else, last night, a grand jury indicted all these son of a bitches in Arizona, the phony electors, including, among the indictments, including the woman who has just been appointed to the Republican National Committee by Trump's daughter-in-law, the woman whose appointment is to be the head of election integrity. She's been indicted for, well, what's the opposite of election integrity? Election theft? Criminal acts? I don't know. You know, sometimes you kind of sit down and tell yourself, all right, I got to take a deep breath here. I've got to try to keep everything separate. This is not some kind of a Bosch painting where there are just weird as shit going on, devils and demons eating people's feet and stuff. You know, this is reality, Mike. Come on. Oh, and then this morning, one of the first things I do when I roll out of bed in the morning, and I probably shouldn't do this, I understand, but, you know, I have a morning routine that includes exercise. But before I do that, while I'm making my cup of coffee, I turn on MSNBC to listen to the Morning Joe program, right? So I turn on this morning just at the point where Scarborough was demonstrating that he has no goddamn idea of the purpose and the goal of the demonstrators on college campuses. Nothing. And it just, to me, listening to Scarborough do that, it just carries me back to when Scarborough was an ultra-conservative representative in the Congress from the Florida Panhandle, which is one of the most redneck parts of the United States. The most fascist, Christian fascist parts of the United States. And over the course of the past 6 or 7 years, I have watched what I thought was the political evolution of people like Scarborough, who started to come out of the haze and the fog and the bullshit of extreme right-wing politics. And for the most part, he's done that. At least he mouths the words with Mika, his wife, sitting there, although Mika has started to display some right-wing tendencies too, as far as I'm concerned. Jesus God. But there he was this morning, Joe Scarborough, referring in a blanket way to the demonstrators from coast to coast, border to border, across the fruited plain, right, Joe, as terrorists. It's terrorists. And you know, at that point, I'm just about to take my first morning sip of River Moon coffee, and I hear this, and I have to pull the cup away from my lips because I know if I take a sip, I'm going to cough and spew it all over the kitchen. Terrorists? People who are demonstrating against the slaughter of children and women and old people? Not that there are that many in Gaza. I think 80% of the population is under the age of 18. But there's Scarborough talking about them as if they are the invaders of Ukraine. Here, our people, the college students, people on campuses across the country who are saying the fucking killing's got to stop. And then he tries to make nice with the Christian fascist who's the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson, who showed up yesterday at at Columbia, and just tried to give a tongue lashing to the people who were there demonstrating in favor of stopping killing children and citizens in Gaza. And Mike Johnson, in that smarmy, goddamn snotty Christian fascist way, said, well, I hope you students enjoy your free speech. What the fuck? What is that? That arrogant kind of attitude. Well, the only free speech allowed is what the Bible gives you, or whatever his position is, this Christian nutcase. So that's how my day started. How about you? Oh, God have mercy. The Supreme Court. It is, no doubt, an unprecedented and politically explosive issue that the Supreme Court this morning listened to from the little Nazi bastard who wants to say that Donald Trump has the same rights as King George, like I said, against whom we fought the revolution. That's what Trump's attorney was trying to say. Absolute immunity, everything he does is beyond the reach of any court, any law, any judicial system. And the attorney for the Justice Department, who's arguing that that is not the case. I mean, nobody can be what Trump wants him to be, and only him. Now, the court was trying to listen to arguments pro and con as to whether the orange bastard can be prosecuted for what the orange bastard's attorney, all of his attorneys have said were official acts taken while he was in office. Now, much of the focus on the arguments today, the way I heard them, and I know that you've had this parsed a million different times during the day by the pundits on CNN and MSNBC. I understand that. So I'm not going to dwell on this very long. But much of the focus in as far as the orange bastard's attorney was concerned, the main focus, what all of us are concerned, is about whether the justices will rule quickly enough so that a trial could take place before the November election. And I think that displays a very real concern on the part of a lot of people, including myself, that this rotten, rancid, filthy freak, Donald Trump, if he should figure out a way to win the popular vote or win the electoral vote, or even if he loses the chaos that he is going to invoke, just like he did on January 6, 2021, the chaos that this filthy Nazi criminal is going to evoke is going to just devour the country. And what people, oh God, I think what people who respect the law are trying to say is this has got to be resolved before the election. Now, meanwhile, the Orange Bastards trial in New York City, the election interference trial, continues. And I was not watching any of that. I'm sure there's been ample discussion of that during the course of the day that you've already heard. But most legal experts regarding the case before the Supreme Court, there are just so many, aren't there, were questioning Trump's arguments that the entire election interference indictment should be dismissed on the basis that he had immunity to commit fucking crimes like treason. I'm putting it in my words, okay? This is not what anyone's arguing before the Supreme Court. This is not the kind of language that you hear in a presentation to these Supreme Court justices. This is just me talking. But legal experts are wondering why Trump is trying to convince the courts that he has immunity where it concerns treason because they were official acts. So this Supreme Court's eventual ruling is going to be, and I've already made it very clear on my X app, that I think they're going to rule in Trump's favor, which amounts to in Trump's favor, and say he does have immunity. Now, I know already today there have been a lot of people much brighter than I, legal experts and lawyers who show up on MSNBC and CNN, who have said, not that at all, who have said, now what the court's going to do maybe is to rule that the trial in Judge Chutkan's office can go forward where it concerns the private behavior of the president, but the official behavior of the president is going to have to be adjudicated and brought before the Supreme Court again and again and again until we figure out what the hell the rule should be. I realize that seems to be the popular position being put out there now by the pundits, who, like I said, are much smarter than I am. What the hell do I know? But I look at things very simplistically where it concerns this orange bastard. I mean, I don't have any doubt in my mind. None. Zero. Nothing. That what he tried to do was to stop the peaceful transition of power to the person that kicked his ass. And to me, that is simply put, two-syllable word, treason. That's all it is. What the fuck else is it? I mean, the lawyers and the Supreme Court justices and the pundits can parse and argue and deconstruct sentences and paragraphs and refer to Marbury versus Madison and this one and that one and the one over here and yada, yada, fucking yada, yada, on and on and on. But is not the central reality here just by using our brains to know that the central reality is Trump tried to overthrow the government of the United States? Am I missing nuances? Well, of course I'm missing nuances. I'm just hitting it with a sledgehammer. This is what it is. But no, we can't go that route. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty, even this orange son of a bitch who wants to burn the United States to the ground. And I don't believe that at all. Innocent until proven guilty. What the fuck? What is proven guilty? I have eyes, ears, and a brain. And I can see and hear and look at and process the information that's coming into my brain and come up with a very clear understanding of what this son of a bitch tried to do. And I listened to all the questions by the members of the Supreme Court today. Yes, they're very educated, very knowledgeable, very much understanding the Constitution, the nuances of laws, and the little nooks and crannies. And what about this? And what about that? And reference this case. And Trump's attorney was going all the way back to Washington and Madison and Adams and the framers, all the way back to the late 1700s, coming up with shit. I mean. Oh, God. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy. 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.